Welcome back for another adventure in the Curse of the Crimson Throne. In this adventure, the city has gone mad. The king is dead. Long live the queen. We have been tasked with finding a deserter from the guards, sergeant named Varric. We've been told he's in the butcher shop. So off we go to explore. I've already set up all the locations, gotten our non-closing henchmen in play. So after preparing the story banes, I shuffled the non-closing henchman evidence into the shop location. After a thug is defeated or evidence is displayed next to the scenario, shuffle the villain Varric and Cascarin into the shop. Thugs are now closing henchmen. If evidence is displayed next to the scenario, add a D8 to checks against Varric. As for our locations, we have our base, and we only have one supporter in there right now. So we can go to the base, we'll explore, draw the top one card because that's all we have. Keep one and return the rest in any order. Then we can either draw a card, heal a card, recharge any number of cards, or remove one of her scourges. Also, we can display her while we're at this location, or if we keep her in our hand and move to another location, she will go back to the base draw pile. At the shop, when you fail to acquire a boon, you may shuffle it into the location. To close or guard, succeed at a Charisma or Diplomacy 6 check. And when closed, before banishing the cards, you may shuffle any remaining boons into one random other location. At the Slaughterhouse, when you defeat a monster, discard a card. To close or guard, banish an ally. When closed, examine the top card of each location, ignoring their powers that happen when you examine them. If any are allies, banish them. At the Storehouse, treat your hand size as one larger. To close or guard, discard your hand. And when closed, draw 2 new items and banish one of them. And at the Plaza, when you would encounter a boon, draw a new one of the same type, encounter one and banish the other. To close or guard, succeed at a Charisma or Diplomacy 6 check. And when closed, you may recharge any number of cards. And I'm starting with Kess at the Plaza and Kira at the shop. So for our starting hands, Kess will get 5 cards. Looking for an ally. And we have 2. We've got the Guide, Soldier, 2 Blessings, and Half Plate. For Kira, she'll get 5 cards also, looking for a Blessing. We have a Blessing along with a horse, 2 spells, and an item. And in addition to our cards we drew, we'll get our Blessing and add that to our hands. So the Avalanche for Kess, and the Dance for Kira. And we'll start with Kira in the Plaza. Advancing the hour, no effect. We'll go ahead and display our half plate. So if we were to suffer combat damage, we may draw this card to reduce it by 2. And if proficient, which we aren't, when you suffer any damage, you may bury to reduce it to 0, and then succeed at a Fortitude 6 check to recharge instead. So then at the Plaza, we'll draw the top card, seeing Spiked Breastplate. And since this is a boon, we'll be able to draw another card from the vault and choose which one to go after. Yeah, we'll try the harder one. So, Constitution Fortitude of 6. Our Fortitude is a D8 plus 1. So we'll see what we get here. Rolling a 7 plus 1, so we've acquired some Spiked Breastplate. Since we have more than our hand size of cards, we'll go ahead and use our Soldier. Discard to explore. This exploration on your strength and melee checks, add a D4. So we'll look further into the Plaza, finding a skeletal owl beast. So this will definitely be a melee check, so we'll get a D4 because of our Soldier. Combat of 14, immune to cold, mental, and poison, vulnerable to bludgeoning. Before acting, we have to succeed at an acrobatics, melee, or perception 5 check, or suffer 2 combat damage. Our melee is a D10 plus 3. So I feel pretty good on making a 5 with that. So we ended up with a 10. So we succeeded at that check. So now for the fight, needing a 14. For our combat check, we get the melee, which is our D10 plus 3, plus a D8. The current hour is a 0, and we have a blessing on a local check. Discard to bless. If the hour's level 0, you may recharge instead, so we'll bless this. Getting another D10 and recharge that card. And we're looking for a 14 here. Getting 15 showing plus 3 more, so we've defeated the Owl Beast. So we'll discard that card. And end our turn drawing 1 card. Getting the Horn of Battle Clarity. We'll proceed to Kira's turn, advancing the hour. On each check, the first blessing played to bless may be played freely. She's at the shop, so she'll go ahead and take a look in. And we've got a Charisma Divine of 5 to get a blessing. Our Divine check is a D10 plus 3. We'll just keep it at that. Getting a total of, that was a 4, so we've got a 7. So, oops. We have acquired a blessing. Since we have a large hand size, we'll go ahead and use this blessing, discard to explore, and look at the next card. Finding a offhand shield, a Clar. So Constitution, Fortitude, Melee, or Survival of 5. So our melee is a D8 plus 2. So we'll see what we get there. Getting a total of 7. So we have obtained an offhand shield. We still have too many cards in our hand. So we will go ahead and use our horse. Discard to explore. This exploration on your first check, add a D4. So we'll get that ready. Take a further look into the shop. Finding a guard, Charisma Diplomacy of 6. If undefeated, suffer the Scourge Entangled and bury a random supporter displayed next to a character. If defeated, draw a new ally. So our Diplomacy is a D8 plus 1. And we already have the D4 from the horse to help with this. So we've got 10 showing there. So 11. We've defeated this barrier, so we'll get to draw a new ally. And the first one in the stack, we found a cat. So Kira will keep on moving, using her cat, discard to explore. This exploration on checks that invoke the magic trait, add a D4. So shopping like crazy. Found the Anti-Plague for an intelligence craft of 5. Our intelligence is a D6. So see if we get some Anti-Plague. Getting a 5. So she's killing it in the shop. So display next to a local character. While displayed on this character's checks against disease or poison cards, add a D8. May banish to remove the Scourge Plagued or Poisoned from this character. At the end of the scenario, banish. So we'll go ahead and display this next to our character. We still have 6 cards in hand, so we'll go ahead and spend a blessing here. Just discard to explore. Staff of Minor Healing. This is definitely something we want. Wisdom Divine of 7. Our Divine Wisdom is a D10 plus 3. And I really like this card. So we have Kess say a little prayer. On any check, discard to bless. Because I feel like my dice rolling is going to fail me here shortly. So we'll see what we get there. We would have just made it with our roll there, but the extra 2 was nice. So now we have a Staff of Minor Healing, which we will go ahead and use. Recharge to heal a local character or card. So we'll put that in the back, recharging it. Random card. And shuffle that into our deck. All right. And we are finally down to 5 cards. That's the busiest first round I've ever had. One of Kira's powers. At the end of your turn, you may recharge a divine card to heal a local character or card. So, we will recharge our Divine Insight, which has a divine trait, to heal another random card. And shuffle our deck, and finally end our turn. So we do our turn effects first, then we draw back up. So we will draw another card, finding a blessing. So back to Cass, advancing the hour, no effect. She'll take a look into the Plaza, finding some frostbite. This has been a nice spell for our cleric. So Intelligence Arcane or Wisdom Divine. So our Wisdom is a D4. So there's no chance of us getting this without help. So our Intelligence is a D6. So with that, there is a slight chance. So we'll go ahead and try it and see if the dice rolls keep on going. Needing a 6. Getting halfway. So the frostbite spell will return to the vault. We will end our turn and draw a card. Getting a prayer. So back to Kira. On your check, to close or to guard, add a D4. Take another look shopping here. Finding imps and house drakes. Needing a combat of 10 or arcane survival of 6. On your check to defeat, each local character may recharge any number of allies and or reveal any number of devil or dragon allies. For each of these, add a D4. And if undefeated, suffer the scourge poisoned. We do not have any allies to discard or recharge for a D4. We do not have arcane survival on our list of skills, so off to combat it is. The only combat card we have is Viper Strike. So for your combat check, banish to use Arcane plus 2d4 or Divine plus 2d4. So we'll put that in our recovery slot. Our Divine is a d10 plus 3. And we get 2d4 for the card. Just being overly cautious. On any check, I'll discard this to bless, getting another d10. And with that, we are looking to get a 10. Getting 10, 14, 17. So we've defeated the imps and house drakes. For end of turn effects, we'll use our cleric power to recharge a divine card to heal. So randomly, we'll just shuffle one of these back into our deck. For recovery, we're proficient, so we may succeed at a Divine 7 check to recharge instead. So that's going to be our D10 plus 3. So needing a 4. We got a 9. So we will recharge this card instead. Then we will draw 3 cards. Getting a Warhammer, Immolate spell, and our token of remembrance. Then pass turn back to Kess. On your check against an undead card, add a d6. Look in the Plaza for some undead. Finding bracers of protection instead, needing intelligence arcane of 5. Our intelligence is a d6. So 5 or 6. 1's not quite going to do it. So the bracers get lost in the mud in the Plaza. We will end our turn and let Kira go. On this hour, when you would discard a boon to bless a dexterity or a charisma check, you may recharge it instead. She'll continue shopping, finding some evidence. So this is one of the Storybane cards. Needing an intelligence, wisdom, knowledge, or perception of 11. When examined, encounter this. We didn't examine it. Add a d8 to your check to defeat. So that's a comma in there, so I'm assuming that goes only if we examine the card. And if defeated, display this barrier next to the scenario. So Kira's intelligence, well, we know her wisdom's her better stat. So we're looking at a d10, needing a d10, needing an 11. So she will need some help on this one. Getting a d10 there. Cass will say a prayer for her, discarding the bless. And that's all we've got. So we need an 11 out of these 2 dice. Getting an 11. So just what we needed. So with evidence done, we'll display this next to our scenario. So we'll just play this out here for now. Then back to our adventure guide. If evidence is displayed next to the scenario, add a d8 to checks against Varric. So that's something for us to remember. I'll just throw this out here and hope I can remember that when it's pertinent. And also, after the thug is defeated or evidence is displayed next to the scenario, shuffle the villain into the shop. Thugs are now closing henchmen, so that was good for us. So we now know Varric is hiding in the shop somewhere. So we'll shuffle that down. Fortunately, Kira has been buying everything there, so it shouldn't be long to find him. And with that, she will end her turn. We'll use her cleric ability to recharge a divine card to heal. We just got 2 cards in her spot now. So we'll shuffle that up. And then draw 1 card, finding a Staff of Minor Healing. For Kessa's turn, a blessing, no effect for this hour. She's happy to get in a fight, so she'll run over to the shop and take a look. Finding an Earthbreaker, so needing a strength melee check of 8. And her melee is a d10 plus 3. So see what we get here. We got a 2 plus her 3, so not enough. That would have been nice to give to our cleric, but instead that will be discarded. End our turn, drawing a card. Finding a light shield. And for Kira, for the hour, on your check, you may discard a card to reroll 1 die showing a 1 or 2. And she'll take a look, finding a henchman proxy. So that is going to be our thug, which is now closing. Needing a combat of 12, charisma diplomacy of 8. Before acting, you may either banish a boon or attempt a strength, charisma, diplomacy, or melee 5 check. Our melee is a d8 plus 2. And we will just go with that. Getting a total of 6. So we made that check, so now on to the fight. We are going to attempt to immolate our thug back there. So for our combat check, we'll use Divine plus 2d4. So our Divine is a D10 plus 3, plus the 2D4s. Since Kess is over there on a local combat check, we can recharge this card to add a D4. We're not proficient, so just a whole lot of D4s in this roll. So looking for 12 and adding 3 to this. Oops. So we've got 7, 15, 16, plenty enough to defeat this thug. So with the thug defeated, we can attempt to close, needing to succeed at a Charisma or Diplomacy 6 check. Our Diplomacy is a D8 plus 1. And Kess will help out with her guide. On a local check to close her guard, recharge to add a D6. And we're looking for 6, adding 1 to this. Getting a total of 14, so we have closed this location. So we will look through this stack, looking for a villain. All other cards will be banished. We do have the option here of when banishing cards, we may shuffle any remaining boons into one random other location, but I'm not going to do that. So then Kira is going to use her Staff of Minor Healing on Cass, recharge to heal a local character card. So we've got 3 cards for Cass. Just take this and shuffle that in. We'll then go into the recovery step. If we succeeded a Divine 7 check, we recharge instead. So that's going to be our D10 plus 3. Getting a 4. So this card is discarded instead of recharged. Then we will draw up to our hand size of 5. Finding a Blessing and our Viper Strike. Then for Kess, no effect this turn. Go ahead and take a look back here. We found our villain. So for a combat check, we need a 16 or 11 for a Charisma Diplomacy. Before acting, suffer 1d4 ranged combat. So it's going to shoot us with a bow and arrow. So find our d4 and give that a nice roll. And by nice roll, I mean we're going to roll a 4. So fortunately for us, when you discard or bury a card as damage, it counts as up to 2. When you suffer combat damage, we may draw this card to reduce it by 2. So we'll draw this card up in hand and then discard our spiked breastplate for our damage and then proceed to combat. So since we have evidence out, we get a plus D8. For Kessa's power, we get our melee, which is a D10 plus 3, along with a D8. And then we'll go ahead and use the Avalanche on your combat check, discard to bless twice. So we'll get 2 more D10s. When this gets discarded, we also get to draw a card. Finding a Porcupine, which we could use, but I don't think it's really needed. I'm hoping we have enough overkill as it is already. So we'll go ahead and roll here, looking for a 16. Getting 7, 8, 9, 15, 19, 22. So he becomes defeated, but he has plenty of places to run to. So with that, we'll pull 2 blessings out of our vault, and they'll get shuffled in with our villain. And then those will be randomly dispersed to the other locations, and they will get shuffled. And now actually the when closed effect would go off if it mattered, but it doesn't. So the shop is now closed for business. Our characters can immediately move. I think we'll have Kira go to the storehouse, and we'll actually have Cass go there with her. And we'll move our base a little bit closer. A little consolidation here. We will go ahead and redisplay our half plate and end our turn drawing 3 more cards. Finding our luck stone, a blessing, and our spiked gauntlet. So on to Kira's turn. For the hour, you may avenge discarding a card. Take a look in the storehouse. And at this location, we treat our hand size as 1 larger. So actually, Cass would have 1 more card in her hand, which would be a guard. And the card we just found is a sneak, needing a combat of 11. Before acting, succeed at a wisdom or perception 8 check or discard a card. Our wisdom is a D10. So looking for an 8, getting a 3. So we must discard a card. And that's going to be our armor there. Now for our combat check. We will beat the sneak down with our warhammer. So getting our melee plus a D8. So our melee is a D8 plus 2. And we also get another D8. And we'll see if that's enough. Getting a 12, 13, 14. So defeated the sneak. He will be tied up in the storehouse and turned into the proper authorities. Go ahead and end our turn. Doing our cleric ability, we'll recharge a divine card to heal a card. Give the deck a shuffle. And then we will draw up to our hand size of 5. Getting a hero deck and some aid. Passing turn to Cass. No effect this hour. And I keep forgetting at the storehouse our hand size is 1 larger, so we'll draw another card for Cass, getting her cat. And now back to Cass. She'll go ahead and take a look back here, finding a scimitar. Strength, acrobatics, or melee of 7 to obtain. So our melee is a D10 plus 3. Getting a 12, so now we have a weapon we don't care about. So we'll go ahead and give that to Kira. And with 6 cards in hand, we'll go ahead and end our turn. So for Kira, for the hour, on your check against an outsider card, add a D4. She'll take a look in the storehouse, finding a spider swarm, needing a combat of 10. It's vulnerable to attack. If defeated by less than 4, shuffle this monster back into the location. If undefeated, suffer the scourge poisoned. So since it's vulnerable to attack, we'll use our Viper Strike, which has the attack trait. So we'll get our Divine plus 2d4. So that's going to be our D10 plus 3. And the 2d4 in there. And we'll see what we get there. And we're adding, since it's vulnerable, we're adding 7 to this roll. So we've got 7, 11 showing, so 18. So we have totally demolished the spider swarm. We'll end our turn using a divine card, our cleric ability, to recharge that. And heal Cass. Then we will try recovery. So Divine 7 to recharge it instead. So we get our D10 plus 3. Getting a total of 10. So this will get recharged. Then we will redraw up to 6 cards. Finding a blessing. Passing turn back to Cass. No effect for this hour. We'll just continue going down the storehouse together and using Kira's healing ability for now. Finding our villain. So once again, combat 16 or charisma diplomacy of 11 before acting. Suffer D4 ranged combat. So we'll see if this rolls something other than a 4. We got a 2 this time. So for that, we'll just use our half plate and return it to our hand. And then proceed to combat with our character ability, which would be a D10 plus 3 plus a D8. Our current hour is a 0. So we'll use this blessing. A local check. If the hour is 0, recharge it instead to bless it. So we'll get another D10. And for good measure, we'll use our spike gauntlet. On your combat check, reveal to add 1. And the melee piercing trait, we may additionally reload to add a D4. We may not play weapons or attack spells on this check. So we'll go ahead and reload, adding a D4. Looking for a 16. And if it mattered, we do get a D8 because of the evidence. So we got 9, 12, 13, 14, 20, 24. So we've defeated him. That will banish all the cards in this stack. We will then draw 2 new items and banish one of them. So top of our stack, we have a Cape of Escape or a Misthorn. So discard to move or to evade your encounter, then move. You succeed at any check required to move. Or the Misthorn, display next to a location. While displayed, when a character at this location suffers damage, reduce it by 2 or 1d4 plus 1 if proficient. Start of your turn, attempt an Arcane Divine 10 check. If you succeed, recharge this card. If you fail, bury it. Well, since Cat's probably isn't good with barriers, we'll go ahead and keep the Cape of Escape. So, Storehouse is now empty. We'll grab another blessing and randomize these 2 cards. And then put them in the remaining 2 locations there. The base never gets any other cards than the supporters we have for him. And then we will shuffle these into the stacks. And with that location down, we'll both move over to the Plaza. Now, since our hand size is back to normal, I have 1 too many cards, so we're going to use our Porcupine. Discard to explore. If the first card you encounter is a monster, you may recharge this card instead. So, not a monster. The short bow needing dexterity, ranged, or stealth of a 5. Our dexterity is a D6. And so we rolled a 6 and found ourselves a short bow. So for your combat check, reveal to use dexterity. Basically, this is a card we're going to discard for damage later. But since it upped our hand size, we'll use an ally. Discard to explore. This exploration, when you suffer damage, reduce it by 1. So going through the Plaza, finding a blessing, needing Charisma Divine of a 5. Our charisma is a D8. So we got a 2. So we are not being blessed. We'll go ahead and display our half plate. And then draw a card and end our turn, getting our spike gauntlet back. So Kira, we'll check the hour, no effect. Take a look in the Plaza, finding a lost local, needing Charisma Diplomacy of 5 or Survival of 7. If undefeated, suffer the Scourge Dazed and end your turn. Our Diplomacy is a D8 plus 1. So we'll see if we're very charismatic. We are not. So getting a 3. So we will become dazed and end our turn and shuffle this back into the deck. So dazed. You may not examine locations, but we can encounter them. If you explored this turn, you may not explore again. If you didn't suffer this scourge on this turn, at the end of your turn, shuffle your hand into your deck and remove this scourge. So not terrible. We'll end our turn using our cleric ability to recharge a divine card. And heal Cass a little bit. And shuffle that. We are at our hand size of 5, so be done there. Pass turn to Cass. For the hour, no effect. She'll take a look in the Plaza. Hey, look, some lost locals. So Charisma, Diplomacy of 5. She's also a D8 plus 1. So we'll see if the Brawler is a little bit better with the locals. Much better. Getting a total of 9. So we've removed them from the stack. And end her turn and go back to Kara. On your non-attack combat check, we'll add 1. We'll go ahead and use our hero deck. We'll reload to examine the top 3 cards of any character's deck and return them in any order. So we'll reload and then pick our own deck to look at 3 cards and put them back in any order. Really like my dagger, but also need some divine cards. So we'll just put them back in that order. Then we will do 1 Explorer, finding a concealed hatch. So need a Strength of 5 or Disable of 3. Before acting, succeed at an Intelligence or Perception 5 check, or the difficulty to defeat is increased by 3. If undefeated, reload this barrier into the location, which makes sense with a lock. So our Intelligence Perception is a D6. We need a 5. Worst things have happened, so we'll just see what we get. Needing a 5 or 6. Getting a 1. She's 2 days, so this gets reloaded instead of shuffled into the deck. So end of turn, we'll do our effects. Get rid of Dazed. And draw up to 5 cards. Getting our Divine Prayer that we knew was coming. And pass turn to Cass. So at the start of your combat check, you may recharge a card to draw the top card of your deck. If you do not play that card on this check, bury it. So we know it's not going to be combat. It's a locked hatch, or concealed. So first, an Intelligence or Perception check. Our Intelligence is a D6. So a 2, which means the hatch just got a little bit harder, so now we need an 8 strength check. Our strength is a D10. Our cleric will say a prayer for us to help bless this. Didn't bless it quite enough. We have a 6 here. So this will go back on top. We'll go ahead and discard our short bow so we can just draw a card and see what we get. Finding a blessing. Passing turn to Kira. On your blessed check, you may reroll any dice showing a 1. And we will try this thing again. So intelligence check of D6. Failed it, so our strength check now is going to need an 8. We're rolling a D8. Alright, so we got a 1 in 8 chance of getting this. Did not make it. Wasting a lot of our turns here. Back to Cass. No effect for this hour. Going into this. So first, our intelligence 5 up check. So that's a D6. Since our hour is a 0, we're going to bless this by recharging to give us another D6. Getting a 6, so we're good there. So now on to our strength check, which is a D10. Kira's going to do a little dance on another character's check. Discard to bless twice. A little bit ridiculous, but this thing's been sitting around for too long. And when this gets discarded, she'll draw a card. So now we just need a 5 out of all these. And we get a 16. So the hatch is finally discarded. End of turn, we'll draw a card. Finding some spiked breastplate. And pass on to Kira. So no effect. So since we wasted a lot of turns there, we're going to split the party up. So Kira will run over here to the Slaughterhouse. Finding a cricket. So we need dexterity range of 5 to obtain. Our dexterity is a D4. So we will fail and just discard the card. We have 4 cards in hand, none divine, so we would just draw a card. Finding our hero deck. And pass turn over to Cass. On your non-attack combat check, add 1. So looking in the Plaza, we find our proxy, which is the thug. So before acting, you may either banish a boon or attempt a strength, charisma, diplomacy, or melee check. Our melee is a D10 plus 3. And we get a 10, so we pass the before acting check. And now for combat, we use our power, which is our D10 plus 3. Plus a D8. Also use our spiked gauntlet. So we'll reveal to add 1. And then we'll reload to add a D4. And we need a 12 on this. Getting 10 showing here, plus our additional 4. So we've defeated the thug. So now we can attempt to close the Plaza location. Need to succeed at a Charisma or Diplomacy 6 check. Our Diplomacy is a D8 plus 1. Nothing to help with that. Getting a 6, so we've got a total of 7. So when closed, you may recharge any number of cards. We'll recharge these 2 items. And then move over to the Slaughterhouse, where we assume our villain is hiding out. So we'll double check through here, no villain there. So that location is officially closed. End our turn and draw 3 cards. Getting our gauntlet back, a guide, and a prayer. So for Kira's turn. If you're at a wild location, you may discard a card to explore. We are at an urban wild location, so we can discard cards to explore now. Going to use our hero deck on ourselves, so we're going to reload it on top of our stack and then draw 3 cards and put them back in any order. And we'll put these 2 divine cards on top. And then take a look in the Slaughterhouse, finding another thug. Alright, so before acting, we're doing strength, charisma, diplomacy, or melee 5 check. Our melee is a D8 plus 2. So see what we get there. Getting a total of 7. So we're good with that, so we'll proceed with combat. Going in with our dagger. So we'll use our melee, which is a D8 plus 2, plus a D4 plus 1. And against an animal or human, we may add another D8 and the poison trait. And we are fighting a human fighter veteran. Guess we'll say a prayer to bless this, giving us another D8. And we're looking for a total of 12. Finding 10, 12, 13, 16. So we've defeated the thug, so we can attempt to close. Well, first 2 things happen. When you defeat a monster, discard a card. So we're not going to be using our scimitar. And then to close our guard, we need to banish an ally. So we'll tell our cat to go away, you're banished. Then we will get in our deck and get rid of all the cards, except the villain that was coming up next. We will end Kira's turn, drawing up to 5 cards, getting some divine insight, token of remembrance, and then our hero deck. So passing turn to Cass. No effect for this hour. Cass will charge in against Varric. Before acting, we'll suffer 1d4 ranged combat. So rolling your d4. Taking 1 damage. We will freely reveal to reduce it by 1, so no damage taken. And now on to combat. So onto our melee plus a d8. Our melee is a d10 plus 3 and the d8. We're going to use our spike gauntlet to give us another 1. And we'll reload it to get a d4. Then for Kira, on a local combat check, we can freely recharge to add a d4. You may use his power even if you have previously revealed this card on this check. So, recharging that. That's all we have. Looking for a 16. Getting 4, 7, 8, 9, 14, and 18. So Varric has been defeated. For a reward, each character will get a hero point that we could use to spend for upgrades, but I'm going to keep them because they can also be used to bring us back from the dead. We will rally the supporter Aemon Gelento. So, display. While displayed on any check to acquire, you may bury to add a d6. So we'll go into our base next time we have a base location in play. And lastly, if evidence is displayed next to the scenario, which it was. Oh, I forgot to roll my other d8, so I even had more on him. Okay. Or if Varric was cornered, we'll get a new ally and a new blessing. So for a new blessing, top of the deck gets his Abadar's Law. And a new ally gets us a Carvosian Dandy. So on a local charisma or diplomacy non-combat check, recharge to add a d6 against an aristocrat card. You may reveal instead. Discard to Explorer. This exploration on your Charisma or Diplomacy non-combat checks, add a d6. And for the Blessing, on any check, discard to Bless. On a check to acquire, recharge to Bless. And discard to Explore. So that's it for A City Gone Mad. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough, so please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.